the game that we were arguably most looking forward to today, outside of the Viking game, was Texans Colts, because we've had a lot of fun watching Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud, and the game did deliver on everything we were hoping for. Starting from the Texans blocked, or the Colts blocked punt. I don't know if you saw this, Ziggy, but right around the same time that Chicago blocked the punt, the Colts also blocked one, and from then on, here's how the possessions went: touchdown Indianapolis, touchdown Houston, touchdown Indianapolis, touchdown Houston, touchdown Indianapolis. End of game for Houston. They ran out the clock. So just complete fireworks to end that one. 29-27, as I said. And for Houston, we were talking about this before. You got to see all of the weapons on full display here. Joe Mixon had 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, hey, you were down on him all year, but the volume he's going to get in this Texans offense is going to be crazy for fantasy managers who own Joe Mixon. And then from the receivers, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stefon Diggs, they all contributed, and Nico Collins in a big way.
Yeah, this Texans offense is going to be a problem. And the Colts run defense absolutely did not get it done today. I mean, again, even if you were higher than on Joe Mixon than I was, I don't think anybody was expecting to put up 160 yards
No,
on the ground.
I did not.
And it seemed like basically any time the Texans wanted to gain yards, they could just hand it to Joe Mixon. And, he averaged 5.3 yards a carry. That was very good. Another sort of interesting thing that I noticed about this Texans offense is while Stefon Diggs got the touchdowns, right? He had the biggest plays of the game. When the Texans really needed something to happen, who did they target? Answer: Nico Collins. Only 6 receptions, the same number as Stefon Diggs, but when you needed a big third down or you needed a big play to try and get some momentum, he was the guy who delivered on those important plays and kept the drives going. And that's why this Texans deep offense is going to be so hard to deal with if you're an NFL defense. You have to have a great run defense to stop Joe Mixon. Then you've got to be able to stop Nico Collins. Then if you can do that, you still have to worry about Tank Dell and Stefon Diggs. There's just so many weapons. You have to worry about CJ Stroud on the ground now. Mm-hmm. He had a great game. He had some important rushes. It's tough to cover this team, man.
Well, and especially because of the way they can attack you. Where you had Tank Dell taking reverses. You had, of course, you said Mixon in the rushing game. You send Nico deep. Like, they can just also, they're so creative with their offense that it's tough to stop. And Stroud, I was watching most of the game today, and I thought Stroud was good, not great. But he ended 24 for 32, 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, CJ Stroud had really good. If you just look at the box score, you go, wow, this Texans team, like, they lit it up. I thought that there were a few throws in here and there that were dangerous, maybe ill-advised for Stroud, that could have resulted in disaster. But overall, as this Texans team continues to grow, continues to gel, you got to remember, there are new pieces and new faces on this offense as well. It's, even though it feels like they're going to come in and score 40 points a game, inserting Stefon Diggs and Joe Mixon are 2 really big names, high volume guys that you got to figure out how's the flow going to work. It's going to be an exciting year for Houston to open up with a win like this on the road. On a great start.
Yeah, they're going to have to find better ways to protect CJ Stroud, right? The Texans handed the ball off, 36 times this game. Still, he took 4 sacks, 10 hits on top of that, plus 2 more tackles when he ran. You don't want your quarterback taking 16 hits in a game, especially not a game where you're dominating on the ground and he doesn't need to. So that's going to have to improve. And I think that's a lot of why watching CJ Stroud looked a little bit different than the numbers, because 10 QB hits don't show up on the stat line anywhere, but they wear on a quarterback.
Yep.
Still, though, this Texans team is going to be good.
They're going to be fun. I'm not ready to put them on the same level as Baltimore, Kansas City, maybe Buffalo after what we saw today, just because of how much Josh Allen's going to have to carry them. But yeah, they're right there. And by the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this Texans team is on the same level as the top dogs. To the Colts real quick. Richardson was someone that we look forward to watching basically the entire season. And really last year, some of our first big videos were Anthony Richardson related. And when he got hurt, I remember how crushed you were, particularly as you had a fondness for Anthony Richardson. But to see him come in today, and again, some spectacular plays, a little bit of what we saw last year, some just crazy plays. The first touchdown to Alec Pierce, what was it, 60-yarder, 65-yarder? It just launched it 70 yards in the air. We got a bunch of people over watching the games, and I'm sitting there on my iPad. I just said, "Holy crap!" Like, what's going on? I'm saying Anthony Richardson just threw one of the nicest passes I've ever seen in my life. And then he comes back on the next drive and overthrows an open receiver in the end zone and throws an interception. And it's kind of what you have to deal with right now with Anthony Richardson is the spectacular plays and then some of the boneheaded decisions where you go, how could you possibly do that? But today, generally speaking, the positive far outweighed the negative, in my opinion. You saw a future superstar.
Yeah, this is the thing about Anthony Richardson is I think people sometimes confuse him with big play quarterbacks. Guys who come into the league where it's like, oh, they've got so much big play potential and then they never actually do anything with it, right? A lot of these incredibly athletic quarterback types sort of fit into that category. Anthony Richardson makes the big plays. He will throw the perfect 65-yard bomb. He will somehow score a touchdown after 8 guys are on top of him somehow. Like Anthony Richardson is able to do that. If he could just be a little bit more consistent,
yes,
he would be unstoppable. You look at the Colts, right? And they've got Alec Pierce had 3 catches for 125 yards. Ashton Dolan had 1 catch for 54 yards. Otherwise, there was basically no receiving game, right? Michael Pittman had 31 yards. Adonai Mitchell had 2 yards, and that was it. You look at the running game, right? Anthony Richardson had some big runs. Otherwise, Jonathan Taylor just wasn't able to get it going. 16 carries for 48 yards. So they're so reliant on the Richardson big play, and he can deliver often enough to give you 27 points and a chance to beat a good Houston Texans team. Like, he'll give you big plays every single game. They just need to become a little bit more consistent, and they can be a real contender for the division.
I mean, yeah, he had 9 completions and 212 yards passing. 9 completions. That's like CJ Stroud. We talked about him. 24 completions, 234 yards. Anthony Richardson had 15 less completed passes and nearly the same amount of yards. It just insane. And on the ground too, he had a couple big runs, 120-yarder. He finished 6 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown as well. Oh, how about producer Zach? By the way, these anytime touchdowns, Ziggy, are out of control. I mean, Zach, I wish you had a camera on you right now. What have you hit so far? You hit Pacheco in the first game. You hit Saquon.
I hit Saquon and Christian Watson.
Yep, Saquon as the first touchdown as well with Christian Watson later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then today you had Juwan Johnson.
I had Juwan Johnson.
James Conner.
And Anthony Richardson.
And who'd you missed on one, right?
Kyler.
You missed on Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So to start the season right now, you're 7 for 8.
Yeah. Kyler was a long shot. Kyler and Juwan.
I don't know how we have the Jack Cap of the week and not an anytime touchdown Zach segment right now. That our friend Sebastian said that earlier. He said we got to get Zach a graphic right here.
What are you gonna do? I'm just hitting these things. I got Mike Evans. Let's see if he does it.
Yeah, I love Zach. Just like Ziggy right now, Zach is up 2 feet away from the microphone, just casually speaking at low volume about how good he is at anytime touchdowns.
Well, he doesn't want people to know, because if people knew, then the lines would get adjusted and then he wouldn't be making as much money.
Yeah, that checks out. But yeah, Zach, unbelievable job again. When Anthony Richardson ran in the end zone, I think everyone in the basement turned and looked at you and went, "Did you actually have?" He's like, "Yeah, I hit again." So to wrap up the Colts here, if you're a Colts fan, again, sucks to lose to a division opponent, especially in a close game. You couldn't get that last stop on defense. But to see Anthony Richardson after an entire year gone from his whole rookie season, essentially, in just his fourth career full game, maybe third career full game played, I think you have so much to be excited about. That's what made this game so enticing for us, is the potential of these two teams is off the charts.
Yeah, and it's the thing to watch is the next 3 games for the Colts are very winnable. First, they go to Green Bay, which looked like it was going to be very hard, but Jordan Love won't be there. Then you host the Bears, who couldn't score a touchdown. Then you host the Steelers, who couldn't score a touchdown. So Anthony Richardson has a chance, even with this loss, to get the team off to a 2-2 or even 3-1 start, which would have them live for the playoffs. So if they can keep this up, he gets a little bit better. I'm not talking a lot here, and the big plays keep coming. It is totally possible that this Colts team is a playoff threat later into the season.
Completely agree with you.